Let's talk about Glenn Maxwell and try and see some of the numbers, because he was the one that, he actually accelerated. We saw when Warner was going well, he had just taken his strike rate excess of 100. Then if you can get 32 of 10 balls, Australia would have wanted him to stay a little bit longer, but that's the kind of strike rate. Glenn Maxwell is a 250, 300 strike rate player, and even though he lasted 10 balls, he was playing to a Glenn Maxwell potential.
Absolutely. And see, that is another thing that you have to look at. Look at when Glenn Maxwell walked in, and he walked in and started hitting from the very first ball. That's the difference. He's a finisher. He's a absolutely distinct finisher. Not every batsman can do it. Steve Smith is probably a better overall batsman than a Glenn Maxwell is. But a Glenn Maxwell has been brought up in situations where he's coming in at 6 and 7 and starting to hit it immediately. That's the talent he has. And the moment he went, look at what happened to all the other guys. And that's why perhaps he was upset. And it's one of those calls that happens instinctively. Quadra just stopped. But if you see what Maxwell did, he was the guy that 13.1 that it reached, that the early part of that was Glenn Maxwell accelerating. Because remember, after he got out, there were quite a few struggles. After that, they were batting at about 7, 8, 9. But it was when he was there, they were batting at 16, 17, 18.
4 overs, 16 runs and over. And I think this brings us back to Zaheer Khan's point. If you look at someone like Glenn Maxwell, he may have been through a small phase in his career when he was wondering, okay, how do I cement my place in the team? Now he seems pretty settled, so he knows whenever he goes out there with that license.
Yes, and it's important as well, someone taking that role. In between that, promoted him up the order to change the scenario and the tempo of the game. I think he's better used in this fashion to capitalize on these last say 10 overs or 15 overs, depending on how Indian team and many other teams are using players specifically for that kind of a role, because it's just finishing of that second power play from 35th to 40th over. So a fielder has to be inside the circle, and after that there is extra cushioning for the last 10 overs. So if someone can get in at that stage, a power hitter, and take the game on from there and really change that run rate, that really helps the team. So that Maxwell has shown it in the past that he's capable of doing that. The only criticism which everyone has always had about Maxwell is the fact that it gets a bit like Shahid Afridi kind of a mold, or players who are not consistent with that kind of approach. He's got tremendous potential. He's got amazing hitting ability. So from Australia's point of view, it's important that he continues to be in this frame of mind and in this zone. Also, the fact that Australia has been using him predominantly as someone who brings in two disciplines has taken the pressure off him. So the communication has happened clearly on that front, wherein your batting is inconsistent in terms of putting those runs on board.
But give us 6-7 overs.
Yeah, give us 5 overs consistently, and then we can carry you in the team a bit longer than normal. I think when you look at someone like Maxwell, because they are coming into bat so late, so you have to look at it as what kind of impact they're making on the game. So in today's match, when you look at Maxwell scoring 32 runs in 10 balls, that's the ideal role which he's playing. So you can't judge them in terms of number of 50s or 100s. You have to judge them in terms of impact in that particular phase of the game. So I think today's performance of Maxwell is ticking, earning full points, if not more, for his contribution at that stage. Yes, he got run out. If he had not got run out, there's still about 24 balls. He plays another 5, 6, 8 deliveries. He might have got to 50. So that's the kind of zone he was in, and he was unstoppable at that stage. So I think in terms of these players, these kind of players should be judged on the basis of the impact on that particular day, because just to compete with all the greats of the player of the game in terms of numbers is very difficult, because they're playing actually a tough role for them to make that kind of impact, and that there are not many players who can have this kind of ability where they start going from the word go
ball one,
and have this kind of impact or have this kind of striking rate at that stage in the game.